Thanks for joining us and welcome to Higgs in Conversation With. This podcast is designed to dive into the minds of some of the most successful individuals who are in senior positions within leading businesses in the UK and aims to provide a peek into their life both personally and professionally. My name is James Modley and I will be your host. I'm a partner in the Commercial Dispute Resolution team at Higgs LLP. I'm really excited to introduce to you on this sunny day Rani Wynn, General Counsel of Livescore Group. Livescore Group comprises of individually world-class media and betting brands of Livescore, Livescore Bet and Virgin Bet. Through these brands, Livescore Group is a fully owned and operated ecosystem that converges the two worlds of sports media and sports betting. It's designed to enhance the experience of sports fans all over the world, and we'll learn more in due course about that through Rani. But Rani, welcome. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, James.
Not a problem. So we're going to go in some weird and wonderful places, and I'm really looking forward to some of your answers because I know from speaking to you before, this is going to be a really, really special episode for the listeners. But if I kick this off, so just tell us a little bit about you, your job role, what you do on a daily basis, and a little bit more about Livescore.
Sure. So as you mentioned up top, I'm General Counsel at Livescore Group. We're a global business, which you also mentioned. We have sports media B2C product, which is a global product. And then we have in specific jurisdictions, we also have online sports betting and gaming products as well, B2C. Who am I and how did I get here? We probably need a little while, but I've always, I'm Australian. I emigrated to the UK 12 years ago, I think, 12, 13. And since moving here, I've always worked in-house. So I came from private practice. I was an associate in Australia at a law firm that specialized in media law, really. That's one of its specialisms. And then ever since I've been in the UK, I've worked in-house in media and in sport. And what does a typical day look like at Livescore? Oh my gosh, I don't think there is a typical day. I mean, the clue's in the name, right? General Counsel. You can do anything on any given day. And because we're a global business, we're very fast paced. It's a highly regulated environment in terms of both media and gambling. So no 2 days look the same. And if I think about all the experiences I've had with it in this organization over the last 7-8 years, so many have been unique, so I think my days can involve commercial contracts, transactional work, employment work, lots of regulatory work, lots of B2C consumer law issues, a lot of management because of the team and the role that I have in terms of managing people, a lot of strategy work at the executive level. So yeah, really, really different for each of our days. But I'm in London HQ and we've got, I think, about 5 offices around the world.
Okay, and you've touched on a couple of bits that I want to come back and unpick a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm always interested. So obviously I'm in private practice and I've never took the leap or actually been pulled into the in-house world. So what attracted you?
Yeah, this is a good one. So I was working on a big litigation in Australia. Litigation, James. See, we're both we came from the same seed. I was working on a big litigation in Australia before I moved here in early years of my career, first couple of years, and I was pretty burnt out. It had taken up a lot of my energy, time, and it was a really big white collar crime, actually, which was quite unique because everything else I worked on was in the media space and in the sports space, but this was something a bit bigger or a bit different in any event. And at the end of that litigation, it came to a close, and my partner that I worked very closely with said, I think you need a bit of a break from the firm, go on secondment. And
Okay.
he said, he helped arrange my secondment into Unilever Australia, which is obviously a big FMCG, global FMCG. And in Australia, I was at the headquarters in Sydney for 6 months, best part of 6 months. And I think that is probably what tipped it, what changed it for
Yeah.
me. Because I actually went back to the firm and did another, I can't remember how long, maybe another year or something in private practice after the secondment. But I think recognizing just how integrated the legal team was with the business, the strategy, the people queuing up at your desk to kind of solve live consumer issues there and then, how can we advertise this to our consumers, etc. I really felt part of it.
Yeah.
And I think of myself as a business lawyer now in any event, as time has passed, I think of myself as a business person. And so I think that's probably what started what struck the match. And when I went back to my firm, my partner said, you're going to be general counsel somewhere someday. You're going to go, trust me, you're going in-house. The firm partnership's not your path. And I kind of dismissed it, but he was right. So
Absolutely right. And you've just said something which I think, again, I want to come on and explore with you of being a business lawyer. So I think in-house lawyers have this reputation as the no brigade, as in, no, the business can't do that. There's too much risk. But you were talking about before your team, which we'll speak about, but also advising the business and helping the business to move forward, making educated decisions, risk and reward. That interaction with business, I think people sometimes from the outside in don't understand how vital general counsel or in-house counsels are to helping the business navigate to where they want to be. Just talk to me a little bit, your interaction with the decision makers within the business at the C-suite. How do you fit into that, and how do you help shape the overall direction of travel?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's so critical for in-house legal teams to not be seen as the cork in the bottle, which we're so often, personified as the no brigade, as you
Yeah.
put it. And I think it's really unfair, for one, because often, we just happen to highlight the very present issues that might exist, and no one has voiced it before. So suddenly, when it's voiced, it can sometimes be seen negatively. But I think it's really critical if you want your legal team and you as a lawyer want to work hand in hand with the business, that kind of trust and relationship building is so important from the start, really. So I think that's one of the critical things to work on in any in-house environment. But no, in terms of my current organization, I mean, I'm in the C-suite, so I'm not the key decision maker or the only decision maker, but I am a decision maker in terms of strategic direction of the business. We have a lot of decisions made elsewhere in the business. We have operating companies all over the world, and obviously for certain jurisdictions, decisions have to be made in country, and we have a really large kind of organizational structure in terms of how that works. But in terms of overall strategy and vision and mission, I do have a seat at that table. So it does allow me at least to participate in conversations around where we're going as a company and what we think is important. I think even if you don't have that C-suite seat, I think you're still, your value is still should be so highly regarded as the internal lawyer or the business lawyer within any organization. Obviously every different company is structured differently, and they may place less or more importance on legal counsel, but for me, I don't think I've necessarily earned that seat in this organization based on just my legal skills. It's also been my business skills, which I think again is comes back to that, my feeling of I'm a business person, equal to I'm a lawyer, I'm a legal person.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And working with a number of large companies and equally small companies, sometimes the perspective of in-house, whether that's general counsel or in-house counsel that may not be at that level that we're just discussing here, is really, really important. And the different views and the different lenses that people come at challenges and problems from can all help shape an educated decision as to what is the direction of travel. But sometimes I've seen resistance from businesses to actually give much weight to what the solicitors are saying, because the solicitor's view is just a block, when actually I think the solicitor's view is, one, common sense to a degree and just seeing everything through a neutral lens, and two, it's just managing that risk balance, isn't it? The risk reward. Or does the reward outweigh the risk? And if so, is everyone aligned to that if there is an issue that pops up? But it's really, really interesting that you are in the C-suite and that your views are, and you use some quite powerful language then, trusted and valued. And I think those are really, really important words that we'll probably come on to in due course. But if I just take a couple of steps back, so just explain to me and everyone, how is your team set up and how does it operate on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I lead the legal lawyers, obviously, the legal team, but that also does comprise our compliance team, and that comprises our procurement team and some of our compliance team. So in terms of compliance, I have all of data protection into me, and also marketing compliance, so B2C consumer compliance. And then I have procurement into me as well, which is a bit weird. It's a bit funky. It's kind of just been something that evolved over time and atypical, I'd say. You don't normally see procurement going into legal, but it works for us. And, that procurement department also have a very close relationship with finance and other sort of operational departments. So kind of dotted lines, if you like. But yeah, so my team are lawyers, compliance professionals, and procurement professionals.
And I was going to say to you, so what's your typical day? But you've already answered that. There is not a typical day.
Does everyone say that? I'm assuming they do.
Do you know what? If someone were to ask me what's my typical day, I start off within my head or on a big list written down on paper. What is my day going to consist of? And 9 times out of 10, my day looks nothing like that.
I'll tell you what, my day always involves a coffee first thing. So that is one routine that is.
So that's a non-negotiable, which we'll come on to.
Exactly.
A coffee, non-negotiable. Exactly. And I'm looking forward to the answer from you on this, because I think you've got 2 perspectives. You are a part of a global powerhouse of a business that is high-performing, that is trying to push its boundaries to become the best it can be. And I know that from speaking to you previously, you instill that in your team, that you want to be the best versions of you and continue to exceed. What do you class as optimal performance and why?
For Livescore or for myself?
I think for yourself, but I think that's very much intertwined in Livescore. But I'm just interested, if you look across the piece, so you've got the business piece, you've got the lawyer piece, you have access to some fantastic people within that organisation, from visionaries to people that can make it happen on the ground, the detail. Yeah. All of them are at the top of their game. So what do you class as optimal performance, just, I suppose, holistically?
Yeah. I think it would be difficult to say that I was performing at my optimal, or I was achieving optimal performance, if I thought the company wasn't also achieving it, in terms of its own growth trajectory and its own, it meeting its strategic goals. And so from that perspective, it kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, we are smashing it, globally in terms of our growth, and, it's been a real graft since we started, and I'm very proud of where we've got to in my tenure in any event. So I think that helps, because I also feel that then I'm performing optimally. It's certainly not suboptimally. So from my perspective, what does success look like for me personally in this role is if people trust me, if people rely on my advice and, follow through on that advice, and it takes us forward into the next negotiation or the next decision, and it's been something that people feel comfortable with. I think having a seat at the table is a sign of success, strategically and also in a governance sense. So I think there's so many small signs of success, and sometimes you probably don't recognize them until you stop and take stock and think, okay, this is where I've got to, this is how far I've come. Success is very, people's understanding of success from an external perspective can be quite binary and sort of represented just by material things. And that's obviously not success to me personally within an organization, because to be successful within an organization, you have to be pushing forward and you have to be trusted to push forward. So I'd say those kind of different things.
And I don't know about you, but you've made me think there with something you've said. I hardly ever find the time, if at all, to reflect on where I'm at, because we're busy people. And I think sometimes when you hear someone else say it, it's really important, because I don't think people do that enough as a whole. And actually success is so different to everyone, because people have got their own perception of what success looks like to them.
And
it's hard, isn't it?
Definitely, and I think that comes down to values as well. I'm not sure if you've done any values work, but I've done a bit of values work, and I think success is so personal, because actually what my values are and what I think is, most important to me and the way I live my life will be different to the next person. And I'm going to feel successful when I'm living out my personal values to, in a way that makes me feel good. Whereas the person next to me will value something different. They might value more around family time, for example. So, or they may value more around leisure activities or whatever it might be. So I think understanding yourself as well and what success means to you personally, then you can translate it into whether you feel you've achieved it or not.
I love that answer. And that brings me nicely onto a question I always ask someone, but I'm going to alter this one for you, because we've got one non-negotiable being a coffee. So instead of me saying normally, what are your 3 non-negotiables for success? I'm going to make it 4. So number 1 is a coffee in the morning to get everyone fired up. What are the other 3? What are the other 3?
Yeah, I do not operate without caffeine. It's funny though, I have stopped myself. I don't drink caffeine after 12 noon now. So yeah, it's got its limits.
Okay.
So I think my 3 non-negotiables for success. Okay, I think, or how sort of success is measured. Did you say like what? Yeah.
Well, just for people listening, what would you say are your non-negotiables that has helped you get to where you are? You mentioned values, and you mentioned the trust piece, and I think that from hearing you, I think you've done a lot of work around that. Yeah. So in no particular order, just what are 3 that you hold really dear to you that you think have helped you?
I think a feeling of contentment, of satisfaction, of feeling as though, when I close the door on the day, metaphorically, I feel, good about myself and about the job I've done. I think that links probably to another one, which would be just personal pride, and success for me is linked with I am proud. I am proud of where I've got to in my career, and so much of my, not persona, but so much of who I am is interlinked with what I do. I know for other people it's not so much the case, but it forms a huge part of my identity. So yeah, my personal pride in that. And then, I'd be lying to say that if success also isn't measured in your benefits, right? Your remuneration, what you can, nice holidays, nice things to enjoy.
Look after the family.
Yeah, exactly. That's a representation of my achievements and my commitment over the last 20 years or however long. So I think they're probably like the clear signs of success to me. Most are intrinsic, but of course some are external.
And a bit of a deeper question. So where have they come from?
I think mostly from within myself. I mean, you mentioned there the work that what I've done. I've definitely done, work over the years. I've had a coach over the years. I've had, quite a lot of therapy over the years of different things, working out who I am, what I'm, what is meaningful to me in this life, what is important to me in my career, in my day to day, how I show up. So really from within myself, my core values and how I see the world. Um, but a lot of that has probably come from family,
Yeah.
structure, family culture. We're very much, I think we're, one foot in each camp between working class and middle class. My family, I'd say we straddled that line, but certainly um, very hard workers. You really worked hard to earn what you earned, and borderline workaholics. My parents, and I think that definitely was always instilled in me from very early on as well. And success did look like having nice holidays and stuff, and stuff like that for my family. And I think that's kind of translated through to what I value as well. So yeah, I think mostly intrinsic, but within myself, but also, of course, family influence and friendship circle, cultural things.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely going to pick up with you on the values piece because that's something
Okay.
that I've only just started looking at and
It's really
exploring. And
interesting.
yeah,
What?
and I'm finding it's very insightful. And I think from my perspective, it's insightful from a good perspective. But equally, there are bits that have come up where I've thought, oh, is that me? Do I want that to be me?
Mm, yeah, one of
Does
mine
that
is
need to be?
competitiveness. Yeah, like
Um,
competition, which you don't necessarily want that to be a core value, but if it is one of my core values, then I have to work with it. I have to try and make sure it's a positive, and rather than a negative.
yeah, so I've come down firmly as a red on the
Oh,
scale.
Carl
So
Jung, yeah.
I know, yeah, it's how do you shape, how do you mould that to be a positive, always a positive. But yeah, we'll pick up separately on that.
Yep.
The as your journey has progressed from private practice to where you are now,
Yeah.
what has been, and it may be that you say I've got too many, and if you have, absolutely fine. What do you think has been the most valuable lesson you've learned, and why?
Oh, I've got a couple of good ones, I think. Gosh, I think the most valuable lesson, and this is pretty much for everyone, but certainly it's something that I tell every young lawyer. And I think some people did say it to me actually, and perhaps I've absorbed it from them. But it's become more apparent as my career has gone on. I think everything is solvable. Everything has a solution. Every problem has a solution, rather. You may not like the solution. The solution may be very difficult. The solution may take you down a challenging path that you didn't expect, you know, but you can solve it and you will be able to solve it. So just that panic that you might have if something goes wrong or something unexpected happens or you mess up or you feel you've done something that you wish you didn't do or whatever it might be. I just and I think it's a great tool as a litigator, because litigation's so quick and you have to make so many decisions under pressure and quite fast, and sometimes things go wrong, as you will well know. And so I think just understanding that no matter what happens, we can solve it.
Yep.
I think that's definitely one of the most valuable lessons to learn. And then I think the other valuable lesson, and I don't know how.
You're laughing, so this has
Yeah,
got
I'm
to be good if
laughing.
you're laughing already.
I'm just laughing because I don't know how you teach it really, but I think just at least knowing or having in your mind that a lot of things in your career will be luck. There will be sliding doors moments, and I'm not saying that your whole career, because that's just simply not true.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've done the academics, you've worked hard, you've proved yourself, you've turned up, showed up, and done all of the work. And I'm not saying those things aren't important. They're critical, clearly. But I do think, like my rule of thumb that I say is, I think every career is about 30% luck. Because for me, if I think about things that just the sliding doors moments that have happened to happen, I wouldn't be where I am if they hadn't. Do
Yep.
you know what I mean? So
Yep.
the Unilever secondment, I would never have, if that hadn't happened, then would I be where I am? Deciding to move to the UK for, it was meant to be 2 years, and happening to take a job at Sky, all of these things, just some of them are just pure luck. And then they've really accelerated things for me in a certain direction. And I think almost I'm not a fatalistic person. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, whatever will be, will be. I don't
Yeah.
think your destiny is like mapped out for you or anything like that. I think a lot of it comes down to hard work. But I do believe that sometimes, opportunities will fall into your orbit. It's up to you what you do with those. But I do think, a lot of it can come down to kind of a sprinkle of luck.
I absolutely agree with that, and I'm going to go in reverse order. And I've only told a handful of people this, so I think if I look back on my career as to how I've got to where I am today, sliding door moment, love that terminology, absolutely. And I think one of the first sliding door moments I had was in a lift, so it was literally sliding door moment.
Oh, wow.
And I was a trainee at the time, and there was a partner of a law firm that I really, really wanted to work for. And it just so happened to be that we were in that lift at the same time. And from speaking to her, ultimately, then that helped me get to be a solicitor at that law firm.
Wow.
Sliding door moment. And
Sliding door
then
moment.
if I look back at some of the clients that I'm really, really lucky to work with now, one, for example, was I was young and green and in the office, and one of the partners said to me, I just don't want to go out. Can you go instead? I had no idea what I was doing, who the person was that I was meeting, anything at all. And of course, I said, yeah, I'll go. And I've worked with that client since I was 1 year PQE, and built a great relationship. But that was luck.
Yeah.
But equally, I'm a firm believer that, and you said it, one, you need to grasp that opportunity with both hands as and when. It's up to you what you do with it if it presents itself. But to the hard work bit, I think you have to put yourself in the situation to make the most of it. And actually, the stronger the network you build up around you, the more luck moments that may happen, being in the right place at the right time, meeting someone, whatever that may be. I do think that it's within all of us to do that, but it does take hard work. Nothing comes easy. And it is hard
No.
work, sacrifice, and dedication for sure.
Yeah. And you have to force yourself to be uncomfortable sometimes, don't you? Like I've told this story before on a panel, but I would gladly hide in the toilet at a conference, like just to avoid talking to people sometimes. And people are always surprised by that because come across quite extroverted, but actually I'm quite I'm quite introverted in some circumstances. And you know, sometimes you have to force yourself to go and have those difficult conversations, the small talk, but you actually never know where things lead. And you're right, like the amount of kind of network that I've built and the people that I've met in these situations have, really helped in my career in different ways. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And I think something else that you first said, just jumping back to that, we always talk about with guests, the mistakes are good or bad, are they indifferent? Because there's this misconceived perception that general counsel never makes a mistake, or a partner at a law firm never makes a mistake, or has never made a mistake to get to where they've been. Fundamentally wrong, in my view. And if you speak to someone and say, have you ever made a mistake? And they say no, I don't think that's quite right. Whether you want to own it or admit it or not is a separate matter. But I think from speaking to people, mistakes are part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you can not repeat them, which is always helpful, and you can learn from them, as you quite rightly say, there is a solution. Whether that solution is easy or very painful, who knows? But there is always a solution.
Yeah.
And I think as humans, we've got it built in us that it's almost like this inferiority complex. If we can't admit that we've made a mistake, we've got to be always on it. That's not life. That's not
No,
life.
no, I agree. I'd be surprised. I mean, if someone says that they've never made a mistake, I would be having them, checked for sort of narcissistic personality disorder or something. Because, I mean, if you can't admit to have ever made a mistake, I've made too many. You've got to get out the scroll for me. The unravels,
I'll be right by your side.
personal and professional. Um,
Well, yeah,
we won't even.
we won't go on to both.
No, I'm only kidding. But I think mistakes are both critical and inevitable in my view. It's a critical part of development to make mistakes and figure out how to solve them. It's also a critical part of development to make mistakes and own up to them.
Yep.
I've worked with lawyers before who find it really, really difficult to own up to a mistake, and I find that really affronting. And I try and lead from example by example, in that regard. If I make a mistake, I tell my team, oh, I messed this up. Actually, I should have said something. Should have said X or Y, because one, it's just better to be transparent in my view and be honest with people, and then you build up trust. If they think, oh well, if Rani can admit, she made an error, then of course we can admit that to her. But also, if you're doing everything except agreeing and admitting that you've made a mistake and you're doing everything to cover it up, I just think, the trustworthiness of that particular solicitor is called into question, in my view. I don't know. I still now think about mistakes I made 10 years ago, and cringe in the shower, as people do. And it's funny, none of them have obviously, none of them have had any kind of career impact or anything like that. But of course, it's an uncomfortable feeling, and you don't want to be wrong or have done something that put anyone at risk, or, commercially, I mean. But
Yep.
I think, have I ever made them twice? No, to your point. Have
Yep.
have you ensured your email hygiene is really cleaned up after that particularly wrong email that you sent? Or, are you really good at double checking where your IP vested now that you've,
Yes.
so it's
Yep.
whatever it is, I think, we're all human. Of course, we're all going to make mistakes, and it's about both owning it and ensuring it doesn't happen again. Yeah, from my
I think it's really important as well, leading a team, to demonstrate that it's okay to say that actually it may not have been the right call at that particular time. But I think also there's an element of if you want to try and push forward, we're operating sometimes in this uncomfortable space of being out of our comfort zone, but trying to progress to the next. And sometimes when you're in that difficult space, no one has got all of the answers, and it's very much a judgment call that seems right to you at that particular point in time. And reflection is it's a great thing, isn't it? Reflection
I think
and hindsight.
self-reflection. Yeah, exactly. But
It's
hindsight is a great thing, but also being able to, your self-awareness is also a good thing. Once you've moved through something, are you able to reflect on that and realize, that you may have done something differently, or,
yeah,
where people, myself included, probably make most mistakes. It's not actually legal advice and, risk analysis and legal instructions. It's more, the human side of business. Managing people is really difficult, and it's such a huge part of my role. It's probably 50% of my role is managing my team, and that's where you can make mistakes because all the human elements come into it, and no two reports are the same, and you've got to, really make sure that you're working with individuals on their own paths. So I think that's where mistakes can be made as well, and I've certainly seen that,
I think that's such an important point. The people point, the communication point. I always say communication is the simplest thing in the world, but equally the hardest to get right. Because we fall into this trap of assuming someone may know it, or an email that is written in one way but perceived another, which is definitely not your intention. Or we're all busy and trying to find time. And what I try and do, and I'm still working on this, is to always find time for the team and actually let them know that when they're in the eye of the storm and it may not be going great, we've all been there. We've all learned from it, and it's part of the process. It's uncomfortable, but it's part of that process that we all go through. But just touching on that, and I don't know whether you're going to be able to answer this or not, because I probably wouldn't be able to answer it succinctly. If I've got some secret sauce, so Rani comes around my house and gives me the secret sauce. What's the secret sauce to make your team as successful as possible? How do you lead your team?
It's a good question. I think you really have to care about your team. I think if you're one of those people, and there's plenty out there, and no disrespect to them, who just doesn't really like leading teams or managing people, I think you have to try and engineer your role to avoid it, to be honest with you, because it's both a huge privilege and a huge burden to manage teams. And I'm not saying it's definitely a skill you can learn, and I think you can start small and get bigger and really kind of grow and develop to be a people manager. But I also think if you're just really naturally not inclined to be a people manager, you may try and carve out something that doesn't involve people management, because I think the number one thing that you need to be a people manager is someone who really is invested in your team. And, as I said, it is probably sometimes 50% of my day is managing my team. And that's a huge commitment. It takes me away from all of the strategic stuff. It takes me away from, the day-to-day lawyering and risk analysis. And it takes me sometimes into the trenches to make sure that people are, getting value from their role, and they're able to navigate certain situations, and they're developing and, managing conflict or whatever it might be. And I think it's a huge investment. So I think being someone who, you don't have to be an empath, but you do have to care about individuals. Now, obviously, you can sort of, I guess, get to the top, and then actually your team and your reporting line tends to be much smaller, right? Because you're in a pyramid structure. And so actually then you have much less responsibility in terms of day-to-day management of people. But I still think it's important at every level to sort of, really care and invest in each person in your team. And then hopefully the respect is mutual. If they see that you care about them, then they're much more willing to perform for you. You might not be able to give them a huge salary increase, but you know what? You know that you're trusted with really amazing, different, exciting work, and you know that your boss is going into bat for you in rooms where you're not present in, or whatever it might be. So there's so many aspects to being a good employer that go sort of beyond what you might be able to offer numerically.
Yeah. You've just covered off an awful lot there. There's going to be. I'm going to pull some bits out. I'm going to pull some bits out because I think there's some really, really powerful messages in there. So you, like us, our people are everything to us. So without our people, I'm the department, the firm is nothing. And I think that investment in people, whilst you may not be able to tangibly see an ROI on that, that is more important than, I'm not going to say everything, but it's very, very critical that you make sure your people are with you come what may, through the bad, the good, the in-between. We're all in it together. We want to help everyone. And actually, if we get that internal piece right, and I think this is the same, well, it is the same for you. My view is if we get that internal piece right, you're going to have a good experience as a client, because we're all pulling in the same direction and everyone is trying to get to the point where I'm only one person. I can't do everything. I rely on my team to do an awful lot. And if my team isn't structurally sound and invested, and more importantly, aligned with the way that we would like to do things, it's all going to come crumbling down really, really quickly. So I think that people point and that investment and being there for them and putting them first, it's really, really, really important from mine and your perspective. I think a question for you, and you've kind of answered this, but do you think leaders are born or self-taught?
I think you can be either, really. I think you can be either, but I'll caveat it. I think I was always told I was a natural leader, right? Like I was, from I can remember early doors, like probably because I'm just bossy was bossy. You know, when little girls are bossy, they're certainly pigeonholed. I don't think that's right now. It's probably not PC now, but you know, I had older brothers, right? So I had to somehow pull my weight, and get them to sort of do what I wanted them to do. So I was always told you're a natural leader, and then I think from that I sort of gravitated to leadership roles and played a lot of sport and things like that, um, and I think then you assume that leading will just naturally fall to you then, and it probably has in my career. But equally, I would say throughout my different business experiences, and I've been in so many different kind of businesses, bigger and smaller. I've also known a lot of particularly kind of introverted leaders who
Mm.
you wouldn't have expected that they would be told in primary school and high school that they're a natural leader. And I think that rather they've probably evolved into leaders and taught themselves those skills which might not have naturally been in their DNA and really worked on it because they've thought of it as something that's important for them to develop, important skills to develop. So I think you can have a natural inclination to be a leader and it might just come to you more easily and you might feel that you're more comfortable. But equally, other parts of business might be uncomfortable, a bit more
Yep.
uncomfortable for you. Whereas on the flip side, you can have it something that you really focus on and teach yourself. You can teach yourself any skill, right? I
Yep.
think I think one thing that's really critical for a leader, apart from sort of trustworthiness and transparency and willingness to make difficult decisions and stand by them and be good at communicating about them, because everyone says you need communication, or you need to be good, you need to have communication, but you actually need good communication. And you can't just be a communicator, you need to be a good communicator. So I
Yep.
think, you can be brave and have all of those kind of natural leadership skills. But one of the key things that you need to do as a leader, and you mentioned it earlier, is be able to delegate. You have to delegate so much work effectively and ensure that people do it and it's done well, and you're not having to kind of quadruple check it, anything and sign, you have to be bringing up people that you trust. And so those are skills that actually I think can be taught and are so necessary for leaders. You might be a natural leader, but if you can't delegate, you're not really a good
Yep.
leader. So I think it's
Yep.
all jumbled up, really. I think even if you are a
Mm.
natural leader, you have to really work on certain leadership skills.
I agree with that, and I think it's about having the ability, and we won't go on to again. Well, how do you get that ability? But it's having the ability to bring people with you, because you can have the best vision in the world, but if you turn around and no one's with you, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You need the people to come with you in lockstep and firmly believe in what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to so if I were to speak to one of your team and I was to say this to them, right? Tell me, what's Rani's leadership style? What do you think the answer would be?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because we've done insights discovery, which is what you were speaking about before in terms of your
Yeah,
color
yeah,
profile. And we've
yeah,
done a lot of work on that as a team so that we could understand each other a bit better and how people like to be communicated to, and how they like to receive, praise or receive kind of the best way of working in, interconnecting with each other. And I'm basically sort of really lead strongly in two colors, which are fiery red, as you are, and sunshine yellow. So
yeah.
it's a weird. I'm a bit of a weird mix, I would say, and I think another friend describes me as stern but soft. So it's like I think I'm it's difficult. I think I'm very direct. I'm I'm very honest, see it how you say it, and you'll know exactly how I think. Whether or not you see it on my face, I'll tell you anyway. So I'm very, very direct, but I think I am also cheerful and I'm always
Yep.
laughing. I'm always trying to crack jokes. Probably they'll probably say that I'm annoying. If you did ask them, I'm always making a joke of things, making light of things. We're only on this earth for a short time, let's not be too gloomy. Let's try and make the most of each day and be,
Yeah.
enjoy our time together. So yeah, I'd say I'm a mixture of red and yellow.
I like that last bit. On a sunny day, I think that's really important. And I think, again, it's that people
Exactly.
approach, isn't it? We're
Yeah.
all trying to do our best. We all want to excel. we're all striving for the next thing, whatever that may be.
And just
But
being
ultimately,
happy.
we're just trying to be happy. And I think it's about having fun. If we can have fun and everyone's smiling, it's not always possible. But if we can create a space where people want to be, that is more than half the battle. Then everything can flow.
Yeah, in those really critical, difficult moments when it is all quite hard, I always just say, look, we're not doing heart surgery here, we're not saving lives, we're not doing heart surgery. Really, I know we're so focused on this thing and it is really important to us, but we can still take a step back and just go for a lap around the block, enjoy your day, let's kind of like bring ourselves back up out of it. And I'm equally get stuck down in there, don't get me wrong. I'm not sort of the martyr up here that doesn't also get trapped into the whirlwind sometimes, or the whitewash. But I think it's nice to be able to reflect.
No, it is. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to scoot along a little bit quicker.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to this answer as well, actually. So, who or what inspires you? Because I can tell from speaking to you, we could talk for hours on numerous points, and we're only just scratching the surface. But who's inspired you and why?
Oh, well, none of the current world leaders, that's for sure.
We won't go there. This isn't a political podcast.
You can take them off of my list. No, I'm joking. No, I think, look, my biggest inspirations are probably my girlfriends. I've just got so many amazing, successful women in my life who have done so much work on themselves to be their best version of themselves, and so successful in so many different realms, things that are so different to what I do day to day. And they all also make such time to be such wonderful friends. And, if they're in a family situation, such great mums and partners. And yeah, I do think like that my girlfriends might be the true like loves of my life, because I am inspired by them all the time. And also supportive of each other. So when I think of like my inspirations, it's really the company I keep, to be honest with you.
That's an awesome answer. Love that. I really like that.
That's another one of my values, is like friendship was very high.
So it comes through. What has been your greatest achievement? So if you look back throughout your career, going back to your days in Australia that you were saying, all the way to here and now, and I'm sure you've got plenty, but if you had to pick one achievement, what would it be?
It's my team, my current team. Yeah, they're so well respected across our business. I'm so incredibly proud of the work that they do and how we work together, how we solve issues. I get so many compliments on them, not just great people, but just the way that we service this organization, and our approach to legal problem solving and our kind of dynamism and commercial pragmatism. I'm just so incredibly proud of them, and if I have played a part in developing that team and kind of fostering that culture within our team, then I'm incredibly proud of that. So yeah, I would say my team.
But again, from knowing your team or some people within your team, I think they are just normal people. And I know people can listen to that and say, well, what do you mean by normal people? But again, I think there's this misconception of solicitors generally that we're not normal people, that some way, shape or form, we're kind of these weird and wonderful human beings that are just completely legal and geeky and techie and don't have any personal skills and do all of the fun things that other people do.
Yeah, you do us a great injustice.
Maybe. But whenever I go out with my friends and my wife, that's the worst. So what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a solicitor. My partner says, I'm an accountant. And at that point, people just walk away and think we're not speaking to these people. But I think your team are approachable. They're personable. They're just nice people. Work hard. Work bloody hard. But they're just normal people. No hairs, graces. Say it as it is. Good and bad.
I agree.
And I respect that.
Yeah, I agree.
I respect that. One last big question before I get
Okay.
to my favourite part, which is the quick fire questions.
Okay.
And again, we've kind of covered this, but from you sitting on the C-suite and heading the legal team, I'm really interested. So how do you bridge the gap from making decisions from a legal perspective and then getting the company to follow them from a business perspective? Because that's a challenge. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I think we have touched on it in different ways, and I guess to bring that together, I think it's a really good
Yeah.
question. It's not easy. It's not an easy process, and I've witnessed it being done really well in some regards and really poorly in others in all the different organizations I've worked in across my career. I think relationship building is the number one. Like if they don't trust you, if the business stakeholder doesn't value your opinion and respect what you're saying, they will not come on the journey. And I've seen it happen. I've seen other lawyers not have their opinions respected because they've not built those relationships, or perhaps they've made too many mistakes, as going back to the mistake point, maybe they've made repeated mistakes or something like that where the trust has been eroded. And I think as soon as that's lost and you don't have that really strength of relationship, in combination with being expertise, having strong expertise and being really respected professionally, then you won't be able to bring them on the journey. So it's such a combination of the two. You have to sometimes gently, gently. I've worked with marketers my whole in-house career, right? Whatever, best part of 13 years, 14 years. And they're all the same. Sorry, marketers.
Yeah.
They all want to push the envelope. They all want to do the exciting thing. They all want to cut the corners, take the risks. That is how they're bred. That's their innate personality that tends to make them a really fantastic marketer. And so you, as probably a naturally risk-averse person going into a legal career and someone who likes to analyze all the different potential outcomes and bring it together in a very sensible and methodical way, is naturally opposed. Your personalities just might not mesh that well. And so both of you, and you may have to take on this responsibility more because you need them to listen to you, really have to work at that relationship so that they trust you and are going to let you kind of guide them in a way that's good for the company and good for you and good for them. So I think it's all about within a business, and this is where we come back to sort of private practice first being a business solicitor. Within a business, it is all about your personal relationships, in my view.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think relationships for us as a firm is vital. And I think what you were talking about relationships within the business, I think that's easily transferable actually to certainly Higgs, where I am now, because everything that we do is about relationships. I think the technical you and I have had this conversation before. The technical expertise should be a given, for sure. But then it's the relationship of people buy from people. I know that's a phrase that is used often, but I firmly believe people buy from people. You as GC have a array of superb law firms that you could go to. But actually, if you don't enjoy working with that person, it's not a good relationship because you've got better things to do than speak to someone on the phone or try and solve a problem or get someone over the line. We're ultimately there to help you. And if you don't want to pick the phone up or interact with that person, there's no point. And you can't please everyone, right? You can't, that's life. You cannot please everyone.
No.
But I think relationships from our perspective, internal relationships, external relationships, whether that's clients, potential clients, business partners, people that refer work, people we do work with, that is fundamental to us and across the piece. And that relationships aren't built easily. It's a gradual thing. It's a trust process. It's a value process. Do you align? But that is certainly, I think, fundamental across all of the people I've spoken to. Relationships are really, really important. Goes back to your point. You're only here once. Enjoy it. Enjoy what you do. Work with the people you want to work with. And there'll be occasions where you don't enjoy working with them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's more than fine.
you don't have to gravitate to each other and be best friends, but you have to have a
No.
professional respect, and you have to work on
Yes.
earning that professional respect.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's the best thing you can do to bring someone on your journey and not have them kind of rally against you. That's not a nice place to be internally, where you're always the bad guy. That's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Right, on to my favourite bits now.
Okay.
Quick fire
I'm
questions.
scared.
There's not many. Are you performance or people driven? I think I know the answer.
I'm people driven. Oh, I mean, they're so intertwined, but yeah, I would say I'm people driven because from
You can only pick one. Go with
Okay,
people.
fine, people.
Okay. What is it that sets Livescore apart from all of its competitors?
Well, I would say our people.
I think I know the answer to this one as well. Listen to your head or heart.
As I've grown older, my head.
Micromanage or trust your people.
Trust your people. I don't have time. I don't have time to micromanage.
Any regrets?
No, it's a useless emotion, regret.
Love that. If you could go back and give your 21-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would just probably reassure myself that it was all going to be okay. And, things were going to work out. I think I've had some, like everyone, had some real ups and downs in personal life and career. And 21 to now is a long, is a couple of decades. So I think
It's only last year, Rani. That's all I was going to say.
it's just exactly 6 months ago when I was 21. No, I think just reassure and a bit of a hug.
Everyone needs a hug.
Yes.
On that point, thank you so much for joining me. Really, really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. Could speak to you for a long, long time. Thank you. Love that episode and enjoy the rest of the sunshine.
Thank you, James. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.